Welcome to Test Room, your go-to hub for professional knowledge sharing. In this tutorial, we will learn what are custom keywords and resource file in a context of robot framework. We will cover what are custom keywords, what are resource files, and step-by-step guide in creating the custom keywords and organizing them in a resource file. The keywords are the user-defined functions or a methods that perform a specific tasks or a series of test actions. If you ever worked with the programming languages like Python, Java, C Sharp, you might have come across the terminology called as function. Function is a block of reusable code designed to perform a specific task. In robot framework, the same thing we call it as the keywords. These keywords are created to perform a specific task and can be reused across the multiple test cases, making the test scripts more modular, readable, and maintainable. Characteristics of a keyword. Keyword has a name, right? Like how the test case has a name, keyword also has a name, which is called as an identifier using which the test cases can call them. For example, here you can see the log is the keyword name of the keyword, right? He is a name, right? And each keyword has an unique name, right? Using which the test cases can call them. The second characteristic is the parameter. Keyword can take one or more parameter or it does not take any parameter. This parameter is optional. The keywords can take one or more the input values which are called as parameters that are passed to them when they are called. For example, if you see this log keyword, it takes, if I hover here, it takes a multiple parameters like message, level, HTML, console, REPR, and formatter, right? And you have to pass this parameter when this particular keyword is called. So in this test case, I am calling this keyword and I am passing the message parameter. Okay, so that is about the parameter. Third one is a process. The keyword basically also contains a body or a block of code that defines the logic for performing a particular task. The fourth parameter is called as an output parameter, which is also an optional parameter. Keyword can return some values back to the test cases where it is called, or it may not return the value as well, right? So fourth parameter is the output parameter, which is optional. So these are the characteristics of a keyword. If you remember, in the last tutorial we wrote all these test cases based on the built-in libraries, built-in keywords. What I will try to do is I will focus on only on this particular test case. So I will remove all the other test cases. I'll just paste into. Okay, so in this test case, if you see, what we are doing is trying to perform an addition operation using a evaluate keyword. What I want to do is I want to convert this addition operation into a custom keyword. So I'm going to write a custom keyword by name perform addition, and this has to be done under the keyword section. So I will write perform addition, and then I will simply cut from here and I will paste here. And in order to use this particular keyword, I have to return the result, right? Because I am going to perform an assertion in this particular test case. So what I will do is I will return, the keyword is written with the variable, right? With the two space or a tab. What you can do is you can give a tab and you can do this, and then what I have to do in this particular test case, I have to call this particular keyword. Let us call this, and for a time being this particular keyword is not using any input parameters, so it is an independent keyword. So but it is going to send us some result back. Let us try to store that result. Okay, like result from keyword and equals to with a tab, then call this particular keyword, and then I will try to log this, and I will also try to put an assert for this particular value with the 8. Okay, basically if you see 5 plus 3 is 8, that is why I am putting an 8, right? So now let us try to execute this. See, this test case is passed. Now I want to basically convert this keyword into little bit generic way so that it can take two input parameters which are of type integer, the numbers, and then it performs the addition operation on them, right? How to do this? For this we will have to use arguments. We will write an arguments within square bracket, and then the two parameters within a variable like number 1, and then with the tab number 2, right? These two are the variables. Then I have to use them here, number 1 plus number 2, right? Also you can write a documentation if you want. If you want to beautify this, you can also do a documentation. For a time being I will pause here. Let us go to the robot frameworks documentation, Google robot framework documentation. Not this one. I think the user guide. Yeah, this user guide is the correct one. Then I will go to this particular. There was an appendix basically. I think, yeah. So if I go to the keywords part under appendix keyword section, it's taking a bit of a time. And if you see, these are the tags that we can use under a keyword. The keyword can take, we can write a documentation using this particular tag. You can pass the argument, you can perform the setup and tear down, and you can also specify the timeout. In case if you want to see that this particular keyword has to be executed within this time bound, we can also give, and then we can also return a value using the return keywords. Actually this return is deprecated now. If you see, and it was used up to the framework 7.0. Now with 7.1 we will be using this particular keyword. So I'll be using a documentation to write a little bit what this particular keyword is doing, and I also use the arguments to pass the argument for my function. Now let us put the documentation like this keyword performs addition on two numbers and if you want to continue writing the documentation in next line, you can do this by putting 3 dots then a tab, then you can write a documentation and returns the result of addition. Okay, this looks very good, but if you see, this editor is showing us the syntax error. That is because it says that there are two mandatory parameters that are missing. Okay, now we can give them as 3 and 5, and this error should go now. And what it will do, we are calling this particular keyword with the two parameters 3 and 5, then it will perform an addition and it will give a result back to me, and we know that 5 plus 3 is 8. That is why we are putting an assertion here, right? Let us try to execute, see what happens. See, this test case is passed. If you want to see the detail in detail what was happened during the execution, you can go to the log file and see. So I am taking you to the log folder under which there is a log file. I'll open with the Chrome browser and I will try to bring it here. And if you see, this is my test case name, and we are, we are calling this particular keyword with passing these two parameters, under which this evaluate function will happen, and it will be basically returns you the result. After that, you are putting the assertion. This is how basically we can write our own customizable keyword. In summary, customizable keywords always should return at the keyword section. Also took you into the documentation where it says basically what are the tags that we can use it in this particular section, like documentation, the arguments, the return, and things like that, right? So it is clearly written in the documentation. You can refer the documentation, what are the things that we can use in this particular section. So after that, we called this particular keyword from the test case, passing it as a two parameters, and then we put an assertion. This is how basically we will be writing a keyword. Let us try to create a keyword that verifies whether a given number is positive or not. I am going to basically delete this, as well as I am going to delete this particular keyword. So this keyword is verify positive number. So the condition here is a given number should be greater than 0. So this particular keyword will take input parameter, which is a number, and so we have to put a condition to check whether it is greater than 0 or not. So the condition is the number should be greater than 0, and we should also put an assert to check whether it is greater than 0 or not, right? The assert is should be the assert is should be true. It should be true. This particular keyword should be true evaluates a condition. If the condition is successful, that means if the number is greater than 0, then the entire operation is successful. Otherwise, this is basically going to fail. So we can derive both the positive and negative test cases to test this particular keyword. We will use here the boundary value analysis or or the equivalence partitioning. Boundary value analysis basically is a test case design technique that says that test your condition on and on both either side of the boundary. Here the boundary is 0, so we should test this particular keyword with 0, -1 and +1 on either side of the boundary. And equivalence partition says that the particular the function, it behaves as same for a set of input and behaves the same for another set of input. One set of input is the positive numbers which are greater than 0, and another set of input are the numbers which are below 0. So this particular the function is going to behave same for all the positive numbers, and it is going to behave the same for all the negative numbers. That is how we are going to derive the test cases. Let us write a test case. Test case valid, which is taking the value as 1, right? So we'll call this particular keyword passing it as 1. Okay, next one is test case. This is a neutral, but actually it is an invalid test case, right? For 0 it should fail, so we'll give it as a 0. The value should be 0 here, and now let us call again with as -1. This is also an invalid. This is a -1. This basically uses the boundary value technique. Now we will use the equivalence partitioning. That means we will take it as test case as valid as 100, right? So verify the, again call this with the value 100, and then when we can call it as an invalid with minus, let us take 50. So this particular keyword behaves the same for all the positive numbers, and it behaves the same for all the negative number, and it also behaves as an invalid for the 0. These are the optimized number of test cases that we can derive to test this particular keyword. So if you want, we can also beautify this by giving a bit of documentation. Uh, this keyword verifies a positive number. Verifies if a passed number is positive or not. So here we basically see that this will pass, and this particular case will pass, and all 0 and all the invalid cases will fail, right? Yeah. So you can also write a documentation here as well, telling that test case to test a keyword with parameter as 1. You can also give a documentation here as 0. So you can keep giving the documentation, but let us not waste time on this, and let us try to execute this particular bunch of test cases. You see, as I told, 2 test cases are passed, remaining test cases are failed. Yeah, this is how we can write our own custom keyword, and we can call this keyword from the test cases. If this keyword takes a parameter, then we'll have to pass the parameter from from the place where we are calling, keyword returns a return value, then we'll have to catch a return value from the place where it is being called. This is how the custom keyword basically works. We can go and improvise these test cases because we see that 3 test cases are failed. But if you basically see the functionality of this keyword is meant for check whether the given number is positive or not, right? If you pass the number as 1, it is not positive, but it is correct, it is doing its job, right? So in order to improvise this, what we can do, we can only return we can only return the outcome of the condition. We will just return the outcome of the condition, which is true or false for all the positive numbers. So we can for all the positive numbers this should be true, and for all the negative numbers this should be false. Negative number and 0, it should be false. So we will get a ret boolean value, ret val, which is type boolean because it is going to return a boolean number, pass or fail, right? Or sorry, not pass and fail, it will return condition is success or not, true or false, right? So for this case, it should be true. It should be true. This value should be true because it is a positive number. And here also, yeah, here also it should be false, right? It should be false here because we are calling it as a 0. 0 is not a positive number. So the result should be is there any keyword by like that? Should not be true. Okay, that means should be false. -1 also, this is the same case for -50. Sorry, this should be -50. Okay, here also it should be like this, and everywhere you should have a return value. Let us have a return value, let us have a return value, let us have a return value. But for the 100, it should be true. I missed the bracket here. For the 100, it should be true. So basically what we are doing, we are basically verifying this particular the keyword is doing its job correctly or not. So for all the positive number, it should return us the true because it is a positive number. For all the negative number and 0, it should return us the false. And in the assertion, we are catching them, right? In the assertion, we are using the correct assertion. For the positive numbers, we are using should be true. For the negative number, what we are doing should not be true, right? This is how it should basically work. Let us try to execute this test case now. According to me, all the test cases should pass. If you see, all the test cases are passed. Let us go to the report file and go to log and open this log. Open with Google Chrome and bring this here. See, all the 4 test cases are passed, not 4, 5 test cases, right? 5 test cases. All of them are passed. We have put the right kind of assertion. This is how basically we need to write our test cases with the valid assertions. So you studied how to write a custom keyword and how to validate them by putting a proper assertion. Now we completely understood what are custom keywords. It is a time to understand what are resource files. Resource files are used to store the reusable components like keywords. If you see in our example, we wrote the entire test cases and keywords, the settings, everything in a same file, right? So these resources files are the separate files. They are separated from the test case where you can store the reusable components like keywords, variables, or the test data, or the configuration that we will be using in test automation. They help us to organize the test scripts, keeping them clean and structured by separating the reusable component from the individual test cases. let us see how we can organize our current whatever the test cases we wrote, right? We see how we can organize them properly, making the keywords to move into a resource file and test cases to sit in the test cases files. For this, let us now organize our test cases and resources into the separate directories or separate the folders and into the files. And during these operations, we may move the files. So I will close this particular I will close this particular test case file, or it is better that I will close the PyCharm. So what I will do is I will basically delete these unwanted things. Okay, what I will do basically, I will create a folder called as test cases. Then I will create another folder called resources. Okay, in the test case folder, I will move this file into test case folder. I moved this file, and for this we can give a very good name as test to test to verify positive numbers NUMBR numbers, right? Now let us try and open the PyCharm. The PyCharm is open. Now what we can do is see, we can see this under the test case. Now what I want to do is under the resource, I want to go and create a file, new file called keyword or for verify the number, verify pos number. Okay, generally we don't give names like that. We will give, because this file will carry the number of keywords that are to perform a different kind of a tasks. So it may be a kind of an utility that we can use it in general terms that I'm going to show when I'm really trying to do some exercises on API testing or the web testing using Selenium and request libraries. For the time being, let us give some dummy names like this. Okay, and in this keyword, what I need is basically I need a setting section. I'll go and create a settings, and I'll give settings, and then I may be importing some libraries here. I think, do we need a libraries? What kind of operations that we are going to perform? Yeah, it's no libraries are needed. Everything is there, but we can write a documentation. This file contains keyword to verify the positive numbers, positive number. Okay, and then I can go to the another section called as keyword section, and I can take a keyword from here, copy this one, and remove these two sections, and I will go here. Yeah, this is how our resource file looks like. Basically all the reusable components, reusable functions, methods, the basically reusable keywords we will be putting into this particular robot file under the resource directory. Now this particular file in robot framework terminology is called as an resource file. So when you try to basically, if you see Here we have a syntax error because now your test case is not able to identify these for functions because I have moved this keyword into another file. So if you want to use this keyword into in this particular test case file, you will have to import them. The way of importing is using the keyword called as a resource. We cannot use it as a library because the library is different from the resources. Resources are basically written, they are available within the project, and they are all the robot files. They are these are maybe written from in Java or maybe written in Python, but the resources are always be dot robot files. Let us use this as a resources, and if you see the I am in the test case folder, right? I am in the test cases folder, but if I have to go one level up, that is by using something like this, there I have resources, right? They have a resources folder under which I have a file called keyword.robot. If I do this, see, as soon as I import that, so all this turned into that syntax error is gone. That red, it was giving the syntax error, it is gone. That means it is now it is able to understand this particular keyword. This is how basically we can organize our test cases and we can organize the keywords separately, right? Now let us try to execute this test case. You should pass, all these test cases are should pass, right? If you see, all the 5 test cases are passed. Let us go to the login directory, which is under the built-in. Check the log. Yeah, so if you see our test cases, then it will be going to call a keyword, and if you see this keyword, there is also a documentation for this keyword, right? The keyword verifies if the past number is positive or not. This is what we wrote basically under here. This is how basically the resource file works. Hope you understood the concept. That brings us to the end of this session. Today we learned about custom keywords, including how to create and utilize them within the test cases, supported by the practical example. We also explored resource files and discussed how to organize the keywords effectively within these files and use them in our test cases. Hope you enjoyed learning with me. In case if you find this video useful, please support me by subscribing my channel. Thank you for watching.